Hello, America. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Karoline Leavitt, the superstar White House press secretary, will hold that press briefing from the James S. Brady briefing room at 1 o'clock Eastern. Always a joy to be with you. I'm Robert McNeely as we break down what's going on inside and outside of the Beltway. Tomorrow, President Trump in Rome, Georgia. An exciting time with 18 candidates running in the special election for March 10th, and which was Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat in the 14th Congressional District of Northwest Georgia. Very, very big in the steel industry, manufacturing, and very, very deep red. On top of that March 10th special election, many of those candidates planning to move on to the general in 2026 and that additional primary. So we look forward to bringing you unbridled coverage here as your live desk and go-to rally network and election integrity headquarters of 2026. And for these midterms, Kristi Noem is speaking out about the Save America Act, how important that is, as Congress right now not in session this week, but the Senate really digging their feet in the sand. We'll see what happens with it as President Trump is prepared to sign this into law, this legislation passing the House last week, and the Secretary speaking out on it and how crucial it is for election integrity and ultimately national security.
Each of the arguments that have been laid out to criticize this bill are baseless speculation from the radical left because they want illegal aliens to vote in our elections. They want to disenfranchise American citizens by telling them that their votes don't matter. There's only one reason that anyone would oppose this bill, and that's because they would want to cheat. They want illegal people and aliens in this country to be able to vote for them and to rob the United States citizens of their vote. And that's why they resist us at every single level when we're trying to deport people back to their home countries or stop them from committing crimes against the American people. That's why they do not support voter ID, proof of U.S. citizenship, or clean voter rolls. That's why the Save America Act is absolutely critical to our country's future. Because without secure elections, we lose what makes our country so great. And then when we lose that, we lose our country altogether.
And with 250 years celebrating this great country with our birthday on the 4th of July, we do owe it to our founders to preserve, protect, and defend that integrity of the electorate, because the bottom line is when you have illegal aliens who come into this country, mostly thanks to an open border of the Autopen and Alejandro Mayorkas, mixed with the commercial driver's license scandal of the 1990s and Bill Clinton's motor voter, this is very simple common sense legislation of one citizen, one vote. When you have illegals participating in municipal elections like New York City and San Francisco, as we have seen in the last decade, or simply the cheating that has taken place and both sides crying foul, Republican and Democrat, you then dilute the vote and the integrity of the American citizen, of that one citizen, one vote standard. So this would require simply non-citizens to be off the rolls. In addition to that, to actually present a voter ID, as we present identification in so many practices throughout the country for various things on a daily basis, including having to be a citizen of this great nation. So civics needs to come back into the forefront, especially for the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., as their voters and Republican voters, independents, all overwhelmingly support this legislation and having a voter ID at the ballot. But we remember our founders with cut number 2 and the White House defending their legacy and their history of 56 men who signed those founding documents, that Declaration of Independence, and stood in the breach, pledging their lives, their treasures, their sacred honor in order to make a more just and a constitutional republic, once an experiment, into a reality.
In order to form a more perfect union.
Just taxes on us. House divided. Sure, they can get
To each other, our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor.
Nearly 250 years ago, 56 men signed their name to a document that sparked a revolution in political thought and changed the course of history. They declared to the world that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In the 250 years since those immortal words were delivered to King George III, Americans of all backgrounds have risked their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to fulfill the promise of the Declaration. Unfortunately, in recent years, some have sought to spread the falsehood that the practice of slavery made America's founding principles irredeemably flawed. No doubt slavery is evil. No circumstance justifies treating human beings as commodities to be sold and subjected to indescribable cruelties. As the Bible teaches, every person is made in the image and likeness of God. Galatians 3:28 says, "There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." Unity in Christ transcends all earthly divisions, for we are all workmanship created in Christ Jesus for good works. Many of the founders did not fully live up to the biblical principles of freedom, but the words of the Declaration of Independence set in motion a chain of events that ultimately set slavery on a path to extinction. Our story is a redemption story. What makes us the greatest country in the world is that we overcome flaws and work through conflicts together as one nation under God. From the very beginning, heroes of all backgrounds risked their lives to secure American independence 250 years ago. Thousands of African Americans enslaved and freed fought in the Revolution. They did not wait to be liberated by others, but they seized their claim to liberty upon the anvil of revolution. Their names are less well known, but their courage was no less valiant. Today, I would like to tell you the stories of just a few of these brave, forgotten heroes who helped win the freedoms we hold today. On April 18, 1775, the night of Paul Revere's ride and the eve of the first shots of the Revolutionary War, Prince Estabrook, a slave of Lexington's Estabrook family, was summoned to join the local militia under the command of Captain John Parker at Lexington. Though not a free man, Estabrook marched into battle alongside his master's own son. Struck by a musket ball in his left shoulder, he became the first African American to suffer wounds for our young republic. He returned to battle after recovery, standing guard at Bunker Hill and serving for 8 years in the fight for independence. At the war's end, Estabrook was finally free. In the Southern campaigns, James Armistead Lafayette performed deeds worthy of the ancients. When the Revolution broke into open fire, the Virginian slave obtained the permission of his master to enlist under the Marquis de Lafayette. A slave turned double agent, Armistead infiltrated British camps by posing as a runaway slave, gathering intelligence from the army of General Cornwallis. Given his deep knowledge of Virginia, Armistead quickly infiltrated the British Army and passed critical military plans and information to the Marquis de Lafayette. Thanks in no small measure to Armistead's efforts, the Battle of Yorktown was a resounding victory for the Continental Army, making it the last major battle of the Revolutionary War. Though initially denied emancipation, he was freed through the personal advocacy of the Marquis de Lafayette. Their reunion during Lafayette's 1824 American tour, when they embraced as brothers in arms, arguably remains one of the most poignant scenes in revolutionary history. In the literary salons of Boston, Phyllis Wheatley emerged as the most prominent wordsmith of the Revolution. Sold into the African slave trade as a child before making the harrowing journey to Boston, Phyllis was educated by her masters in subjects ranging from the Bible, classics, literature, history, astronomy, and geography. By age 12, Phyllis began publishing her own verse. She later became the first African American to release her own book of poetry and gained her emancipation from the yoke of slavery. Wheatley's works included a recollection of her journey from Africa to America, a poem praising General Washington, and verse that wove classical learning with Christian hope, stirring the conscience of patriots as she reminded them of their ideals. Wielding the pen as her sword, Wheatley held freedom's cause. In every human breast, she wrote, God has implanted a principle which we call love of freedom. While Phyllis Wheatley advanced liberty through her poetry, other African-American heroes did so from behind the pulpit. One such American was Lemuel Haynes, a preacher, a Minuteman, and a firebrand for freedom. He became the first African-American ordained minister in our republic. Abandoned by his enslaved father and Scottish mother shortly after he was born in 1753, Haynes grew up as the indentured servant of Deacon David Rose, under whose roof he developed a passion for teaching the Bible. When his indentured service expired at the age of 21, he enlisted in the local Massachusetts militia. In May of 1775, Haynes and the Green Mountain Boys surprised the British soldiers and captured Fort Ticonderoga, securing a strategic pathway to the north, a wealth of artillery, and a glimmer of hope for the discouraged Continental Army. After his service, Haynes became a full-time preacher and spread the gospel for nearly 30 years. In his sermons, Haynes denounced slavery as a sin that defied the heart of God Almighty and professed that America would never be free until it ended the practice of slavery. Patriots like Prince Estabrook, James Armistead Lafayette, Phyllis Wheatley, and Lemuel Haynes are just a few of the thousands of African Americans who risked their lives for our independence. But one question we all can ponder is why? Why did these brave patriots make such valiant sacrifices to secure freedom and sovereignty when they had not been afforded their own? The answer lies at the very heart of who we are as Americans. The Declaration of Independence, the very charter of our nation, laid out America's foundational principles. The self-evident truths expressed in the Declaration are the words that unite us as citizens and define our inheritance as one people united under one great American flag. At first, America did not fully live up to the ideals expressed in the Declaration, but the spirit of 1776 declared to the world the eternal truths that ultimately toppled the evil of slavery and recognized the rights of all Americans, regardless of background or skin or color. Our nation's story is not a black story. It's not a white story. It is an American story. This is the promise of the Declaration of Independence. This is our story. And these brave men and women are forefathers who bestowed a righteous and honorable legacy upon us all. As we approach 250 glorious years of American independence, we remember the wisdom, courage, and the unwavering perseverance of every hero who breathed life into our republic. Our liberty was paid for by the sacrifice of generations so that we could live as free men and women in the greatest nation the world has ever known. Today, it is our duty to preserve this sacred inheritance and ensure that the eternal principles of the Declaration remain alive and flourishing for our children, grandchildren, and every future generation of American citizens.
Thank you to Hillsdale College and the Department of Education, along with the White House, for producing such an extraordinary video with Secretary Scott Turner of Housing and Urban Development. a gentleman who was once a cornerback in the NFL and played for a school near and dear to my heart, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and a former Texas state rep now serving in the cabinet of President Donald John Trump. Thank you for our sponsors here on the right side of history. All Family Pharmacy, with all of those winter storms that can still be around the corner. We know that Punxsutawney Phil, he called for 6 more weeks of winter just 2 weeks ago. Many Americans are being reminded of how important it is to stock up on these life-saving medications. Antibiotics to ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, mebendazole, and many, many more, including emergency medical kits. You have 300 options here at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Choose freedom. Choose the right pharmacy with code RSBN10 for 10% off now. Imagine already having flu medication at home or that extra blood pressure medication as it's running low in the middle of a storm. All Family Pharmacy helps make that possible. There's no red tape. There's no bureaucracy. Simply sending in your pharmaceutical note. A U.S. licensed doctor reviews it on the other end, sends it right back to your door. So it's extremely convenient to be shipped right to your home address. No waiting rooms, no insurance roadblocks, no last minute changes. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Watching out for you and yours with the most favored nation status and that right to choose with off-label generics. 10% off now. Code RSBN10 at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Angelpaste.com. The Great Miracle Cream, vitamin B infused. They are one of my favorites out of Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. Christian owned, they hire veterans. They also have an orange option to compete and fight back against cold and flu season with vitamin C infused in an all-natural way. Also the all-natural facial spray to go paint the town red. Experience the miracle that is angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us here on the right side of history. As we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway, we await the superstar press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, at the top of the hour, 1 o'clock precisely. That's what it's scheduled for in the James S. Brady briefing room, to touch on a number of different topics happening there at the White House and what's on the docket for the President of the United States, including a great trip to Rome, Georgia, where we will be tomorrow for a special election to fill the vacant 14th Congressional District seat. My colleague Matthew Alvarez recently had an interview with one of those individuals running for the Iowa House in election midterms 2026. We are your election integrity headquarters, and interviewing all sorts of candidates from state house to state senate, of course, Congress, senators, gubernatorial candidates, and even those dog catchers and precinct committeemen right around the corner so that you can get involved and honor. What better way to honor 250 years of America than pursuing elected office? And one of our favorites, Dylan Filian, running there in Iowa, had a recent interview with Matthew. We'll toss to that now.
Joining us now on Right Side Broadcasting Network is Dylan Filian out of Iowa, of course, running for State House District 81. Thank you so much for joining us, Dylan.
Thank you for having me on, Matt.
Definitely. So let's talk about this. I know that on Truth Social, you have a photo with President Trump, and you've been obviously around Iowa and other places. What's your overall thoughts about running for State House there in Iowa? And by the way, how old are you?
Well, I'm 21. I never expected at the age of 21 to be running for office, but here we are. The Lord calls us to do different things in our life. But nobody ran in 2024 for this seat, and the Democrat got in. And so far, I see nobody putting their hat in the ring for this seat. So I might as well just take a crack at it. And I feel that I'm the candidate to get the job done here in District 81, and the people have been deserving a state representative here in this district for many years.
That's awesome. It's going to be great to see something like that happen, especially if you win your primary, then win the election later in November. Let's talk about the basics of why you're running outside of that there's an open seat. I mean, God, family, country's got to be what drives you, yeah?
Oh yeah, that's the biggest driver. Obviously, as we've seen, Matt, over the past few years, we've seen a lot of legislators not followed by that. And obviously, we need more strong leaders in office. And I feel that I am that strong leader to lead this district to great prosperity.
Let's talk about someone, of course, the great late Charlie Kirk. How did he inspire someone like yourself? And then could you talk to us about others in your age group that have been inspired by Charlie?
Sure. I have seen a big uptick in people just my age staying engaged in the political world more than I thought, because I have engaged with a lot of people to where they're they don't really like politics, but all of a sudden they would watch a Charlie Kirk video and be like, "Man, that guy is my guy. Like, he's speaking my language." I think my generation really related to Charlie Kirk because we're not that far off of age difference. And I think he spoke to the issues that really resonated with my generation. And I think that's very important, especially since we have a lot of, no offense, boomers in the Republican Party. Not to say that they're not great, but however, they're not speaking to my generation's issues. And I feel like Charlie Kirk was one of the first people to actually speak to my generation's issues.
It's awesome to see that happen over the years with Charlie's legacy. And then on top of that, you know, the common sense issues are no matter what age group, right? Isn't that what it's about? It's the simplicity of freedom and the Constitution and all of those things. Is that not what you're running on?
I'm running on all those things. In fact, my Democrat opponent actually voted against protecting women and children. So it's unbelievable. But yeah, that's one of my biggest drivers to that.
So then outside of that, I mean, you could have taken a number of career choices. Did you go to college? Did you not? Tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, so currently right now I am a student at a community college here in my town. I'm a former hockey player. My original dream was to become a professional ice hockey player, and I was well on my way on doing that. There were some things that just happened in high school that just didn't go my way. It's totally fine. The Lord has different paths for all of us. And I basically started to engage in politics when I was around 16 to 17 years old. And I just grew a curiosity, and then all of a sudden I got involved in 2022 with the congresswoman's campaign, and then I got actively involved, and I really got to see the process up close on how to win campaigns and everything else. We won that campaign by about, I think, 6 to 7 points. Don't quote me on that. But however, then after that I worked for President Trump's campaign. I made 95,000 phone calls. I placed second in the whole entire state of Iowa out of all volunteers for phone calls, and I knocked, I think, 1,000 to 2,000 doors along with that. And we worked really hard to win that campaign. And it was a great team effort, and we won that campaign very huge.
Yeah, we saw that happen. And thanks to people like you and many volunteers that just love their country, would rather have someone like President Trump in any day of the week than Kamala Harris. But then good luck to you.
I don't think we'd have a country if we didn't get President Trump back in office.
Exactly. And so let's talk about that a little bit. The Save America Act is all about voter ID and also proof of citizenship. I mean, I'm sure the people in Iowa are saying, yeah, let's get this done.
Yes, absolutely. I would say we need voter ID everywhere. It's crazy to me that Chuck Schumer goes online and says having voter ID, passing the SAVE Act would be like Jim Crow 2.0, which is unbelievable to me. And also, too, not to mention, Kathy Hochul said if we pass voter ID, the Black community wouldn't be able to find an ID. It's just insane to me. It's racist, but unfortunately, the media doesn't cover it because the media is Democrat run. So I think the SAVE Act is a very important piece of legislation because not only does it require voter ID for federal elections, but it also closes the loophole which was passed in 1993 by, I think, the 1993 Voter Registration Act, if I got that correct. But there's a lot of things inside the SAVE Act that we need to reform our elections, and I believe our elections should be held at the highest standard, especially since we're the #1 country in the world.
100%. So tell us about the rest of your year campaigning for that District 81 House seat in Iowa. When is your primary? Then, of course, we know November 3rd is go time, right?
Yes, absolutely. So my primary is on June 2nd. From what I know, I don't have anybody running against me, which is a great one to keep it that way. But currently, right now, it's only me in the race. We have a huge governor's race coming up here, a U.S. Senate race. Obviously, President Trump endorsed Ashley Hinson. We have a radical left lunatic who's running on the Democrat side for governor, and we have four great candidates for governor, and they're all my friends. And I'm very glad to see the great conservatives that are stepping up and running for office here for governor, and as well as state legislator. I've gotten to meet a lot of great people around the state who are running for legislator, and what it's looking like for my campaign is ever since I entered into this race, we've seen an increase of Republican voter registration in this district. It looks different compared to 2022 because in 2022, Democrats held a thousand people lead over Republicans, and now it's kind of narrowed down and it's more in a swing range. So this district is really winnable, and in just a few weeks, I will be door knocking and fighting for the people.
Awesome. Could you tell us what the website is for people if they want to donate to your campaign, that kind of thing?
Yes. If you would like to donate or contact me, please go to dylanphilian.com. Or if you want to contact me personally, you can also contact me on Patrick Bet David's Manect app. I use that app for plenty of communication. If you like to contact me there, or you can contact me on my website, whatever is good for you.
Awesome. Dylan Philion out of Iowa. Good luck to you, sir. Keep us up to date on what's going on there in that great state. And please tell the conservatives in Iowa we said hello.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Thank you. We love you at Right Side Broadcasting. God bless you all.
God bless you. Thank you.
And thank you for Dylan for joining us, because he is really an exciting new candidate. And the ripe young age of 21, you could be 18 years old to run for the state house in Iowa, and a crucial state first caucus in the country, as it is traditionally known for the presidential years. The bottom of the hour, thank you to Rumble Wallet. You will be very excited about this because it's empowering voices, enabling transactions, and you may have seen the conversations happening online as of late. Censorship is back, and it's happening literally everywhere. Platforming and controlling narratives, pushing the stuff that they want you to see, and in turn, do we have a choice in all of it? That's why we need to fight back in 2026 and 2028. But Rumble is the only company that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but now on the other side, they have introduced something that will give you financial freedom. Now, every voice can be heard and tipped in Bitcoin, stablecoin, and more, protecting your free speech, meeting financial freedom in real time. So download this Rumble wallet at wallet.rumble.com. Banks can't cancel these Rumble accounts and freeze the cards. So that's why Rumble launched Rumble Wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel and a wallet that supporters can instantly use to start tipping content creators and places like right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. With Rumble Wallet, you can control the money. Not a bank, not a government, not even Rumble can go into your own personal Rumble wallet. It's yours, only yours protected by you and your future family members. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin, Tether Gold as well, in all one place. This real gold is on the blockchain with ownership in physical gold bars. So you could diversify with this wallet as well. And it's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators easily, as I mentioned before, easily tipping those here at RSBN among other content creators, because more speech is free speech, and more voices better for the dialogue as we celebrate 250 years in this country. Wallet.rumble.com, empowering voices and enabling transactions. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as well as mypillow.com/RSBN, the mattress and topper sale, as low as $99.99 plus free shipping on your entire order. mypillow.com/RSBN, 2,000 different options. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. CEO Mike Lindell bringing you made in America high quality products, including using some products from around the world, but again, made right here, like the Giza Dream Sheets from the Mediterranean. Amazing cotton, so comfortable. The My Slippers, also the My Coffee. A great way to have an easier, more sleep-fulfilled night, but also a brighter morning with that pep in the step. These are the products that you can get at mypillow.com/RSBN. And we look forward to following Mike as he's running for governor of Minnesota. We know that great state, wonderful people could use a sea change in their leadership at the top. The mattress and topper sale now as low as $99.99 plus free shipping. mypillow.com/RSBN. And during this Black History Month, we celebrate what President Trump has accomplished with his cabinet. And we remember great actors like Morgan Freeman, who once told the late, great Mike Wallace, Black history is American history, as Secretary Turner honoring that with Hillsdale College earlier on in the broadcast today. This month is all about advancing opportunity and prosperity for every American. President Trump hosting leaders from the Black community at the White House to mark Black History Month and reflect on the administration's ongoing efforts to expand economic opportunity, strengthen education, and promote justice for every single American. Through targeted policies and broad reforms, President Trump has prioritized initiatives that deliver tangible benefits to Black families while ensuring prosperity is accessible to every single American citizen, fostering a stronger nation united by a shared success for all. Here are a few items where President Trump has succeeded with his great cabinet. President Trump awarding hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes of historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, building on the long-standing tradition and commitments to enhance access to quality higher education for students nationwide. President Trump's historic push to pass the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, in fact, will safeguard the voices of Black Americans and all Americans at the ballot box, preventing illegal votes from disenfranchising any American citizen. The Trump accounts, this new historic savings tool, which you could find at trumpaccounts.gov, providing working families with that Tax Cuts Act, providing newborn Black Americans and all children with early exposure to the stock market, helping to bridge generational wealth gaps through compound growth. President Trump also his landmark Working Families Tax Cut Act, securing no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, and a long list of other major tax benefits, delivering these relief to millions of eligible Black workers and families across the country nationwide. President Trump securing a tax-free $1,776 Warrior dividend bonus for U.S. service members, including the 350,000 Black service members proudly serving our country. President Trump also protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million Black veterans in the United States by reducing the backlog of veterans waiting on VA benefits, reforming the VA loan home program to help veterans keep their homes, and eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse for those that would be victim to it, all with this great legislation and executive orders that we've seen in over 1 year now by this administration, working overtime for the American people. Now, as we look to election integrity, that's such a main focus here in 2026 and the midterms, as we are your election integrity headquarters here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. My colleague Matthew Alvarez had the opportunity to speak with Thomas Lane of AFPI, America First Policy Institute, and their election integrity reforms, and not only the difficulties of heading at this head on with things like motor voter that got ingrained into the American voting ethos over the course of the last 25 years, but how these reforms will make a difference not only for 2026, but for 2028.
And joining us now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network is Thomas Lane. He's the Election Integrity Director at the America First Policy Institute. Thank you so much for joining us, Thomas.
Thanks for having me today. Great to be here.
Definitely. All right, so let's talk about the Save America Act. So glad President Trump is calling it that, because that's exactly what this legislation would do, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir. This bill would do three very simple things. I think a lot of people are really familiar with the SAVE Act, and they hear Save America, similar name, but the SAVE Act, what it did was it required documentary proof. It required you to prove through documents at voter registration United States citizenship. Easy. All right, great. That's the first thing. Second thing was that it would take the current voter rolls and we would scan those voter rolls. It would require states to look at their voter rolls and say, you know what? Any non-citizens on those rolls that shouldn't be there in the first place, you need to remove them. That was the SAVE Act. The Save America Act does those two same things as well, but it adds a really important key part, which is photo voter ID at the point of voting, whether it's in person or by mail, showing a photo ID in order to vote.
It's great because I did research that as well, and I saw under the original SAVE Act, the Safeguard Americans Voter Eligibility Act, and I did see that it said proof of citizenship, but to your point there, the Save America Act, now it's photo ID, and this is something that we see in many countries across the earth, and then we're lagging behind, which we don't usually take second place, do we, Thomas?
No, I'm a strong believer in American superiority, and we are severely lacking in this area. From first world countries to third world countries, this is an issue that is commonplace around the world. And not only that, within the United States of America, it's a popular issue across the board, not just with Republicans, but also Democrats. CNN themselves put out a poll last week that said 83% of Americans, so around 70 to 80% of Democrats and 80 to 90% of Republicans, for a total of 83% of Americans said, yes, you should have to prove that you're an American citizen to vote in an American election. It's surprising to me that 17% of people think that shouldn't be the case. But either way, this has broad support around the country.
It sure does. And then on top of that, we saw it pass at the U.S. House of Representatives 217 to 213 the other day. Can you talk to us about what it's going to be like in the Senate now? And we have, 50 senators on the Republican side of the aisle that are saying yes, but we need 53. And then there's a filibuster and the 60. Could you break that all down for us again?
Yeah, sure. The House is very simple, in a simple majority, in that all you need is one more vote than the other side to get something through. We all know that. And a lot of people expect the Senate to work the same way. And it does with certain things where the filibuster has been broken. Think Supreme Court nominees, where you have Amy Coney Barrett or Justice Gorsuch get through, or Ketanji Brown Jackson get through with a simple majority. Because that filibuster was broken, that nuclear option was had in the Senate. When it comes to election legislation, that is not the case. And I don't think that there's an appetite really on either side right now to break that filibuster. There was an appetite for that threshold to go from 60 votes, or 3/5 of the Senate, down to a simple majority when the Democrats had control a few years ago. And you saw them introduce insane legislation, 600 plus pages. It was their HR 1. It was their number one bill, and also an HR 4, because the first bite of the apple wasn't good enough. They called it the Freedom to Vote Act. I called it the Freedom to Cheat Act. And it was also the John Lewis Voting Rights Act that they had put forward that would just nationalize elections, where it's federal one-size-fits-all takeover, not of your 83-17 issues that we're talking about, but issues that aren't even popular among the American people. And we had Senators Sinema and Senator Manchin who said, you know what, I don't think I want to break the filibuster for this. And so the current state of play in the Senate is not a simple majority like it is in the House. It is a 60 vote threshold. And so, yes, even with 53 Republican senators, you're going to need 7 to come across the line. You might get John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, but you still need 6 more. And so then we get into what folks are referring to as the standing filibuster, where, hey, we're not going to use the nuclear option to break that 60 vote threshold, but we are going to make you work. we are going to make the senators go on the Senate floor and debate this very popular issue of photo voter ID and proving that you're a citizen to vote in American elections. And happy to dive deeper into that process and what that would look like in that timeline.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's look at President Trump's recent Truth Social post. He said that there will be voter ID in the midterm elections. So there's just a lot at stake this year. So let's just talk about it from that 30,000 foot view once again. We know that free and fair elections is what this country should be all about. So this should not even be an issue, right?
That's right. It should be easy to vote and hard to cheat. I don't think anyone is going to disagree with that. And when the president is calling for photo voter ID, he's calling for something that is with wide support. And whether he tries to do it through executive order or exhibits a little bit of time and a little bit of patience to let the Senate work through the process remains to be seen. But I think that is the hope is, hey, Senate Majority Leader Thune, you worked with the House Freedom Caucus and us during the last shutdown to say that you're going to bring this to the floor. And so let's see what the process looks like. And yes, it could be days, it could be weeks of forcing Democrats to stand on the House floor, the Senate floor, and say 83% of Americans are wrong, including the majority of my base. And I want American citizens to think, I don't know if my elections are secure. I want non-citizens to be on the voter rolls, or I don't want to have anyone show a photo voter ID at the point of voting, whether it's by mail or in person. And that is a very unpopular take, I think, for the Democrats to take. And so it remains to be seen why they want to drag this out as much as they are.
Exactly. And we know President Trump saying, because they want to cheat. As you mentioned earlier, we'd rather have free and fair elections than cheating any day of the week when it comes to specifically this as well. All right, so let's talk about you a little bit. So before you went to AFPI, I'm sure that you were in politics, of course. So tell us your story about why you're the election integrity director, why you're at AFPI.
Thanks for that question. Ever since I was a kid, I loved two things: Jesus and sports. And politics is, in a lot of ways, a combination of both of those things. And from a young age, I was interested in politics. And so I went to law school and really became more engaged through that process. And even before that, I had clerked at the Arizona State Legislature. And so I got down and dirty in the state politics side. And then once I graduated from law school, I got an offer to come work for the president in 2020. And so I ran the election integrity campaigns there in Arizona and New Mexico for him. And I've been hooked ever since. It's an itch that I just can't scratch and get complete relief from. And so a whole journey to this job now, which most recently culminated on the Hill, on the House Committee on House Administration. That's in the U.S. House of Representatives, and that is the committee that has broad oversight over federal elections. And so they consider it in a lot of ways a sleepy committee where the committee deals with parking or the Smithsonian, but of course, the big one is elections. The House and the Senate, they judge the seating of their own members, and that is an internal process that goes through the House Committee on House Administration. And I was the counsel there. So I was the lawyer, but it's not just like the Senate Judiciary or the House Oversight Committee where there's a massive staff and everyone has their one lane that they stay in. Small committee, small staff, it's all speaker selected. And I was able to serve as counsel to do all the legal work and all the policy work and all the coalitions work and approve all the communications as well. And so scratch that itch for a little bit last Congress and the beginning of this Congress. And once the legislation seemed to be at a point where I could take a little break and leave, I took a couple months off and weighed my options, and AFPI, America First Policy Institute, came knocking and was the best offer, and happy to talk about AFPI in depth a little more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at Brooke Rollins and you look at Linda McMahon and Carla Sands and a number of people that are on the right side of history. So obviously your future may be in a cabinet position someday. Who knows? I'm not going to get too far ahead of it, but again, though, God, family, country is probably what it's all about for you at the core. And then you just are able to work those conservative values out there into the country, right?
That's exactly right. And you hit on who I call our matriarchs. And you have people who started AFPI in 2021 really out of necessity, a home for conservatives, America First patriots to go. And now Secretary Rollins and now Secretary McMahon were running this shop, a very small team. And it's been 4+ years, nearly 5 years of, hey, we are on the right side of history. We have America First values that are good for the American people, that will put more money in their wallets, that are core liberties that, when followed, not only do they make sense, not only are they logical and reasonable, it's the truth, but it helps you. And it's a God-fearing purpose that I think so many people have. And it's amazing people here, great people here. A lot of people look at the Hill, Congress as a whole bunch of backstabbers and backroom deals, but here at AFPI, we're a 501c3, a nonprofit, we're a research institute, and people pumping out amazing product every day. Go to americafirstpolicy.com to look at some of that. And it is an amazing opportunity to, yes, have so many people who have gone into the administration where I believe we're at over 90% of our America First agenda has been either implemented or advanced, so much so quickly in one administration that we've had to write an America First Agenda 2.0 to move the ball even further. And so it's amazing to be part of a highly effective organization that is educating the public on where we have all the education system, all of Hollywood, all of the media, except for the corners such as yourself who spew another side. And we want to say, you know what, there's a home for you, America First loving patriots here at AFPI.
Amen to that. Thomas Lane, the Election Integrity Director at America First Policy Institute. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great day. And please keep us up to date on anything there at AFPI.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you to our sponsors here on the right side of history as we await Karoline Leavitt at the top of the hour for a press briefing. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with storms hitting the country like never before, the weather disrupting travel to getting access to timely goods and even getting them out of the house in some cases. We're reminded about how important it is to be stocked up and ready to go on essential medications at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. RSBN 10, RSBN 10 is the code right now for all of those essential medications, from antibiotics to ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, emergency medical kits, Tamiflu, and much, much more. Imagine already having a flu medication kit or something on hand for you when it's most needed. That's what these guys do as the online leading pharmacy across the country. It's all about the generic off-label right to try most favored nation status, also having medications on hand in case you're delayed. You can also travel with these medications, including antibiotics and antivirals, right there at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN 10. Choose freedom, choose the right pharmacy, scan that QR code now. Patients can order the prescription medications online. No insurance, no red tape, no bureaucracy. Just a U.S. licensed doctor that fills out that pharmaceutical note and sends it right back to your door at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And speaking of no waiting lines, no urgent cares, you can also double down on protecting yourself with angelpaste.com, the miracle cream that is the vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemical, also the orange option, vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals, as well as a natural facial spray. Experience the miracle today. That is angelpaste.com. They're based out of Spring, Texas, Christian owned, and they love veterans as well, prioritizing their hiring at that great company right off the Gulf of America. It's angelpaste.com as we break down the latest inside and outside of the Beltway for you. If you have anything to mention or share with us, feedback at rsbn.tv. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Again, the superstar White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt to be at the top of the hour in President Trump's first term. We know through Black History Month, his policies have transformed the lives of countless Americans, including when President Trump relocated the federal HBCU initiative back to the White House, ensuring it remained a key priority in his administration. and elevating the support for these vital institutions. President Trump also signing the Future Act into law, securing a historic $255 million in annual funding for HBCUs, and increasing the funding for Pell Grants to make college more affordable for low-income students from all backgrounds. President Trump authorized more than $100 million for scholarships, research, and centers of excellence at HBCU land-grant institutions, fostering innovations and academic excellence. President Trump granting full forgiveness of $322 million in hurricane-related disaster relief loans to 4 HBCUs, allowing them to focus fully on educating their students without the burden of debt. President Trump also lifting restrictions that barred HBCUs with religious affiliations from accessing federal funding for capital projects, expanding opportunities for faith-based education. And President Trump also driving that America First agenda with record low unemployment for Black Americans, with over 350,000 lifting themselves out of poverty through booming manufacturing and smarter trade policies that benefited workers nationwide. President Trump also creating opportunity zones. This was something that he spoke extensively with the late Jesse Jackson, wanting to implement these, and with Senator Tim Scott and other allies inside and outside of Washington, D.C., they got that done immediately. This is a game-changing initiative that attracted $75 billion in new private investment into economically distressed communities, creating $11 billion in new wealth for minority neighborhoods and revitalizing areas long overlooked. President Trump signing the First Step Act into law, enacting historic criminal justice reforms to make the system fairer, reduce recidivism, and provide second chances for individuals re-entering society, impacting families and communities across the country. So as we celebrate Black History Month amid America's 250th anniversary, President Trump remains committed to policies that lift up all of Americans and secure the American dream for generations to come. And now that we've seen the second term and that focus on fighting for all of Americans, especially when it comes to providing great tax relief, we'll watch as this 2026 continues to unfold in 250 years of this amazing experiment known as the United States. And with that, cut number 5, the White House tax cuts, a huge thing and great success, really bipartisan in its approval from Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike. Proves to you why it's we the people versus a bureaucratic state that is waning in the federal city.
No tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security is making a big difference for our Michigan workers, for our seniors as they're getting and filing their tax returns. They're getting big checks back.
Thank you, President Trump, for all you do for people across Michigan, saving money, making sure we're transforming rural health, helping our kids learn, and making elections great again.
I also want to thank the President on his initiatives on no tax, on overtime, tips, and Social Security. This is something that's truly helped the American people. And so I want to say again, thank you, President. Thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. God bless you and God bless America.
You may have seen the conversations online dating back to 2020 and everything that happened during COVID and the BLM riots, but the censorship of American citizens in the English-speaking world. That's why Rumble decided to fight back peacefully and patriotically. And now Rumble Wallet, their exclusive new wallet, so you can tip and work in Bitcoin and have gold in your wallet and not worry about big banks and big tech censoring you. Every voice can be heard and tipped in this new stream known as wallet.rumble.com. So scan the QR code now as they're empowering voices and enabling transactions, platforms controlling the narratives and pushing back on you and your freedom. We need to fight back, and Rumble is the only company that has done that. in such an extraordinary way. They deserve our support. On one side, you have Rumble challenging big tech censorship, but now the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection when it comes to where we send our money. Banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards in an instant, literally turning off our accounts. So that's why they launched Rumble Wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel, a wallet that supporters, again, can tip to great institutions like RSBN and new content creators in the new media so that you are protected. It's yours, only yours to protect for your future and for your family. And here's the kicker. You could buy these digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place, be part of that blockchain, and actually have ownership of physical gold bars using Rumble Wallet. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, but to make sure, again, your accounts are not turned off. Easily tipping content creators that you like to see out there, as more voices equal more free speech. And what a way to honor the 56 signers of the Declaration by defending that very First Amendment. Now, support this show and support, again, all of your favorite content creators by going to wallet.rumble.com. What's also great about this, not only the banks and big tech unable to shut down your wallet, also Rumble. They can't get into the wallet itself. So this is truly yours. What a gift it is from Rumble to have all of this. Download today at the Google Play Store or the App Store, the Rumble Wallet. Step away from the big banks for good at wallet.rumble.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history, as well as mypillow.com/RSBN. The mattress and topper sale as low as $99.99 with promo code RSBN. Easy to remember. Free shipping as well there. 800-836-7566. Call today. Do not delay. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. Over 2,000 various items, all made in the USA in the great manufacturing plants and facilities of MyPillow, all the way up in Minnesota. MyPillow.com/RSBN. Save with code RSBN. Call today. Don't delay. 800-836-7566. Thank you to Mike Lindell, a dear friend of the network, also running for governor of Minnesota. He's doing pretty well, polling pretty high there on the Republican side. We look forward to that race as Senator Amy Klobuchar on the other side wants to be the governor. Oh, we've seen her for a long time now, and we need better leadership all the way up there. But in the meantime, grab those My Slippers, the My Coffee, and one of my personal favorites, the My Pillow 1.0, and those Giza Dream Sheets. Some of the most comfortable on the market today at mypillow.com/RSBN. We're at the 1 o'clock hour, and we are awaiting Karoline Leavitt, the superstar, to hold a press briefing just moments away. And some of the big topics: how to make the American middle class flourish once again, and it's through the policies of this president in which that is happening as we celebrate Black History Month. And the video earlier on in the broadcast from the great Secretary Scott Turner, a graduate of, as we like to call it, the Harvard of the Midwest, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, once a cornerback in the NFL and a Texas state representative, now leading housing and urban development in the cabinet. And we've seen how the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and the Trump accounts greatly benefiting Black America, but also America as a whole. And Morgan Freeman, the great actor, once famously saying to the late, great Mike Wallace, Black history is American history. Why simply give it a month? Let's celebrate it every single day in our calendar. And that makes a lot more sense than just putting it to 1 month. But in this recognized time, we think about those who have had government in the way over the course of 250 years and the good, the bad, and the ugly of our nation's history. And this president, a citizen president, coming down that escalator to change it all for the better, bringing together a team of people, in some cases who were once Democrat, currently now independent or even Republican. It's not so much the letter next to your name, but rather what are the policies you are attempting to implement, and how can you work in private and public teams to make a difference and to make that happen. And this cabinet doing it better than anyone else, as we witnessed with Secretary of State Marco Rubio defending Western civilization and the people who have had statues torn down or removed either by city officials, as we saw in Chicago, Illinois, with the great Christopher Columbus those few years ago under Lori Lightfoot, and an awful tenure that she had, someone who literally laid out money and was trying to coax people to getting a vaccine and then to be paid for that in taxpayer money. I mean, it's unbelievable when you look at the last few years of our history. But Secretary Rubio boldly proclaiming why Western civilization has stood the test of time, not only in the grand building of architecture, a renaissance, and artwork, but also what those pillars stood for, what the church has stood for countless generations, and how our government is literally on the shoulders of a Christian worldview. And here's the amazing and perhaps the most beautiful factor in all of that: you don't have to believe it. But as long as you recognize the history of this nation and assimilate, you could be part of it all right here in this great American experiment. So as we see that being put to the test, Secretary Rubio calling on Europe to join in partnership with the United States of America to make all of that happen for Western civilization and reclaiming that for the entire world. And we've seen it in policies with what's happening in Greenland, to the tariffs happening across the country, to renegotiated trade deals, and 8 wars being solved, peace and prosperity, peace through strength, something that the deep state and the military-industrial complex not too thrilled about, with this president rewriting those course and what was happening under the dangers of the prior administration. And now the big kicker, the 4D chess in all of it, because the America and American companies, as well as some international companies, now really controlling those pipelines and reinvigorating Venezuelan oil, the Russian government may now need to trade in the American petrodollar, something that was abandoned by the Saudi Arabian government, and during the Biden administration, trading in the yen with China. In turn, if that ultimately does happen, you can have a quicker end nearing the 4-year anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the war that I think everyone wants to see end, with countless casualties both on the military sides and the private citizens who have been affected so greatly in that terrible conflict. So our thoughts and prayers with those freedom fighters, not only in and around America, but abroad and in Iran, seeking to reclaim their Persian culture, as the mullahs are facing danger on a daily basis now, as their government seems to be crumbling and a terrible economy happening there overseas. So just some of the headlines happening around the world and right here at home, as we await Karoline Leavitt to hold a press briefing moments from now. Thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off of the essentials with code RSBN10. Choose freedom. Choose the right pharmacy. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, NAD+, methylene blue, hydrochloroquine, and emergency medical kits that can save you and yours. Because with all of the travel that's been disrupted by these crazy winter storms, it's very true that being prepared is the most important thing to do. Because think about getting sick with cold and flu season spiking this time of year, and then you don't have anything on hand. Preparation is really the key. Imagine having a flu medication kit ready to go when you get sick, so you don't have to run out of the house. All Family Pharmacy helps make that happen with no red tape, no bureaucracy, no insurance, no issue at all. You simply call or visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, and you have the pharmaceutical notes ready to go to be reviewed by a medical licensed doctor, on the other hand, right here in the United States, sending that order back to you. So no waiting rooms, no urgent care visits, no panic, no worry about the red tape. Simply life-saving medications for you and yours at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan the QR code there now for RSBN 10%, 10% off of your order today. If you like what you see here at the network, feel free to donate at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801. There's also an address for check or money order. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us here on the Right Side of History. And again, you could donate if you download wallet.rumble.com for that as well. So another way to donate to this great network. We are your election integrity headquarters, also your go-to live desk and live rally network. And tomorrow, back at it in Rome, Georgia, the 14th Congressional District, 18 candidates running in that race. So a big highlight once again for the Peach State, crucial to the future of the United States of America. We'll be in there. We look forward to interviewing you there on the ground as we bring you unbridled access to your 45th and 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, and the 119th Congress. We look forward to this big election season, in some cases underway with early voting in places like Texas, Illinois, and other states as we gear up for some March primaries right around the corner. Thank you for supporting us here on the Right Side of History. And as we await the Press Secretary, Karoline Leavitt, they're live from the White House in the James S. Brady Briefing Room. We'll take a quick commercial break for further sponsors. Stick with us here on the Right Side of History.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the Right Side of History.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
And welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. If you're just joining us, the superstar Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, to hold a briefing moments from now in the James S. Brady briefing room in the West Wing of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm Robert McNeely, always a joy to be with you as we highlight voter identification and how important that is to most Americans, Republican, Democrat, and Independent. But there's only one entity that seems to be against it, and it's the Democrat politicians on Capitol Hill. The White House releasing the data on voter ID, why it's overwhelmingly popular with literally everyone except Democrat elected politicians. So President Trump has been unequivocal. Nothing is more fundamental to the integrity of security of our elections. That's why the Trump administration has repeatedly called on Congress to pass the Save America Act, common sense legislation requiring voters to present photo ID and implementing other critical measures to protect federal elections from fraud and abuse. Yet despite overwhelmingly popular support across every demographic, radical left Democrat politicians continue to block these reforms, placing partisan politics above the clear will of the American people, including their own voters, and above the basic security of our elections. Voter ID is extremely important to the American people. Polling has consistently shown this, even amongst Democrat voters and independents, whites, blacks, Latinos, literally every demographic agreeing that this is a good move. The Pew Research Center stating 83% of Americans favor requiring all voters to show government-issued IDs, including 95% of Republicans, 71% of Democrats, just 16% of Americans in opposition. Gallup finding that 84% of Americans support requiring a photo ID to vote, including 98% of Republicans, 84% of independents, and 67% of Democrats. Separately, 83% support requiring proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the first time. Additional surveys also done, including the Napolitan news service, the Center Square, consistently show extraordinary support for the use of voter ID, and even other networks stating how important this is in recent interviews with the President of the United States and even members of Congress. So this really is not a close call. It's overwhelming to support something like the Save America Act, which would require that voter ID when you go in to vote, or proof when you mail in that ballot. Also, that proof of citizenship piece, mixed also with getting non-citizens off the voter rolls. And this is all a pushback against motor voter of the Clinton era in the 1990s that's led to crises like we've seen with the CDL issue and illegal aliens who do not speak the language and who have caused horrible, tremendous wrecks and have killed American citizens as a result of not being safe on the road. Perhaps the most famous that led to the downfall of former Governor George Ryan in the Prairie State of Illinois when he served as Secretary of State during the license for bribes scandal. It's amazing to think that after that crisis that led to the death of a family of 7 and a pastor's family driving on the highway, you think that they would stop giving or issuing licenses in places like New York and California, amongst other states, to illegal aliens driving on the interstate. It's extraordinarily dangerous to not be able to follow the rules of the road, nor be able to read the signs, and something that Secretary Duffy has jumped on in reforms there. And we've seen it down in the Free Sunshine State of Florida, where now you are required any license test, the CDL to your basic driver's license to others, in obtaining that state ID, you have to pass an English standardized test. It's only given in English now, and that waiver to change all that or have that exemption is now gone. And that's just simply common sense, because it comes back down to assimilation and speaking the language that is English officially here in the United States of America. We also saw the success of Munich Security Conference and the Trump derangement syndrome coming from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who is being far surpassed by the tenure of the greatest Secretary of State in our modern history, Marco Rubio, calling on allies to embrace shared heritage and meeting challenges of the new era. Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivering a landmark address at the Munich Security Conference, boldly reaffirming President Trump's commitment to a revitalized transatlantic alliance grounded in mutual strength, shared heritage, and unapologetic defense of Western civilization, drawing on Europe's profound Christian foundations and cultural legacy, which helped forge the United States of America. Secretary Rubio urged European leaders to reclaim their sovereignty, confront common threats, and build a confident, self-reliant continent. Secretary Rubio synthesized President Trump's America First foreign policy, one that brings sovereign nations together in a common purpose, rejecting outdated globalist structures, rebuffing self-destructive policies such as unchecked mass migration and climate extremism, and securing prosperity and cultural preservation for future generations. The speech drawing widespread affirmations and acclaim from the vice president himself, Mr. J.D. Vance, stating this is a great speech, worth watching the whole thing. Senator Katie Britt, incredible. Watch this. Listen to every word. Senator Joni Ernst, stating powerful words from Secretary Rubio. With our allies and partnerships stronger than ever, our adversaries are weaker. As America charts the path for a new century of prosperity, we hope to do it alongside our European allies. Also with Senator Lindsey Graham, calling President Trump Reagan 2.0. Secretary Rubio did a masterful job explaining why Europe should make new decisions regarding the direction the continent is going. He stressed the following: Europe's outcome matters dramatically to America, and modern America was birthed on the European continent. But we have our own mind. It is my hope that Europe continues to become more in control of the mass migration that has plagued the continent and more committed to its own defense. Secretary Rubio explaining, as well as anyone, that the America First agenda does not mean America alone. America First means a new relationship with Europe that is equally beneficial. And to those in Europe who want to hold on to the old way of business, you are making a mistake. It has not worked. Well done, Marco. Great words from Senator Lindsey Graham right there. Also, Senator Mike Lee, Secretary Rubio speaks truth to power. Dave McCormick of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Secretary Rubio gave a remarkable speech in Munich, Germany. It's a must watch. Also, Senator Eric Schmidt. Great speech by Secretary Rubio. I pray Europe listens. Also, countless congressmen stating their support for Secretary Rubio, including Congressman Darrell Issa, an absolutely superb overseas address by Secretary Rubio, strong, smart, and persuasive, that presents the Trump administration's global vision and America's place in the world. Congressman Greg Murphy, literally one of the best, if not the best, speeches regarding the need to wake up and abandon liberal policies that are destroying Europe and the United States. Amen, Secretary Marco Rubio. Even former Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy stating, well said, great leadership. Municipal leaders like former mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, incredible speech, so well articulated and delivered, the best our country has to offer in terms of leadership on the world stage. Also, the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's CEO, Mark Dubowitz, an extraordinary speech, Reagan-esque in vision, Churchillian in resolve, with News Nation host Katie Pavlich mentioning that Secretary Rubio is absolutely remarkable. Well done. A great speech. And even our friend here, Coach Bruce Pearl of the Auburn men's basketball team, his son leading the way now, but someone who did for many years, stating that Secretary Rubio wants us to leave it better than we found it, prouder, stronger, wealthier, and safer. That's what we should all want and work towards for our grandchildren. Even Meghan McCain, someone who has criticized the administration at times, stating, wow, truly one of the most inspiring speeches I've seen in years from Secretary Rubio in Munich. What an incredible statesman and an ambassador for our country, just blown away. More of all of this from the administration. Give the speechwriter a raise. because it was quite a great 18 minutes. And after the speech as well, a Q&A there at the Munich Security Conference. So I highly recommend go back and look into YouTube or simply watch what took place last week as James E. Thorne stated the United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio delivering a historic speech that has placed America's current policies with the larger arc of history and the doctrine of economic sovereignty, articulating a clarity that has long guided Trump's U.S. strategy and is now being reinforced through disciplined implementation. And as we await Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary, to be with us moments away there at the James S. Brady briefing room at the White House. We'll take a quick commercial break. You're watching The Right Side of History. Stick with us as we bring you the latest from the White House.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Again, moments away, Karoline Leavitt from the White House for a press briefing as President Trump celebrating Black History Month and his policies making a massive difference for not only all Americans, but especially for Black America, advancing opportunities and prosperity for every single American family. Now, President Trump hosting leaders from the Black community at the White House to mark Black History Month and reflect on the administration's ongoing efforts to expand economic opportunity, strengthen education, and promote justice for every single American through targeted policies and reforms. President Trump has prioritized initiatives that deliver tangible benefits to Black families while ensuring prosperity is accessible to every single American citizen, fostering a stronger nation united by shared success for all. Here's what you need to know in President Trump's second term. President Trump awarding hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically black colleges and universities, building on a longstanding commitment to enhance access to quality higher education for students nationwide. President Trump's historic push to pass the Save America Act will safeguard the voices of black Americans and all Americans by preventing illegal votes from disenfranchising any citizens. And now the historic savings tool of the TrumpAccounts.gov. Huge, with the Tax Cuts Act and the Working Families Tax Cuts Act making a massive difference. Let's toss to the White House now and Karoline Leavitt.
For your patience as always. Let's begin with some scheduling announcements for the remainder of President Trump's very busy week. Today at 3 p.m., President Trump will host a Black History Month reception in the East Room of the White House. I know many of you will attend, and we will see you up there. Tomorrow, President Trump will host a Board of Peace meeting at the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace, where he will announce that member states have pledged more than $5 billion towards the Gaza humanitarian and reconstruction efforts, and have also committed thousands of personnel to the International Stabilization Force and local police to maintain security and peace for Gazans. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will travel to the great state of Georgia, where he will visit 2 local businesses and give a speech on his efforts to make life affordable for working people. On Friday, President Trump will host a working breakfast with governors in the East Room here at the White House. And on Saturday night, President Trump and the First Lady will host the annual Governor's Dinner. Next, I'd like to provide an update on the economy. We're seeing promising signs every day that 2026 is going to be a record successful year for the American people, just as President Trump promised them. The January jobs report shattered expectations, highlighting how the president's pro-growth economic agenda is fueling American prosperity. The economy added 172,000 new private sector jobs to kick off the year. That's more than 2.5 times economists' predictions. The labor force participation rate went up while the unemployment rate fell. The prime age labor force participation rate is now at its highest since 2001. Most importantly, 100% of all job creation under President Trump continues to be in the private sector. This is truly remarkable. That's 615,000 private sector jobs that have been added in President Trump's second term thus far. These are real working people. These are real American families who will be living out their American dream. Meanwhile, federal government employment has shrunk to its lowest level since 1966, saving taxpayers $29 billion annually. And all of the net job growth under President Trump has gone to native-born Americans, ending the disgraceful pattern under Joe Biden of job gains going to non-citizens and illegal aliens. Additionally, on inflation, the new CPI report is even more proof of the progress made by President Trump. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts, the president has managed to utilize powerful tariffs to secure trillions of dollars in investments into our country and rebalance our trade deals while simultaneously cooling inflation. Year-over-year inflation fell to 2.4% in January, beating expectations again and marking the lowest level since May. Core inflation, the best measure of inflation, dropped to its lowest level in nearly 5 years. Meanwhile, real average hourly earnings for all private sector workers rose in the month of January, which means more money is going back directly into people's pockets. After only 1 year of President Trump back in office, real earnings for all private sector workers have outpaced inflation by nearly $1,400, earning back roughly half of the $2,900 they lost under Joe Biden when 40-year high inflation was stealing Americans' purchasing power. President Trump's policies are and will continue to allow Americans' incomes to go further for bills, retirement, and achieving the American dream. A key part of the American dream is buying a home, and that is finally becoming more affordable under this president. This past week, it was announced the annual mortgage cost for a new home has fallen by $4,000 so far under President Trump, after rising by roughly $15,000 under Joe Biden. As a result, mortgage affordability has reached a 4-year best following recent bold action by the president to make home ownership more attainable for American families, not large Wall Street corporate institutional investors. At the same time, national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low and have declined for 6 consecutive months. The annual rental cost for a new rental unit has fallen nearly $100 so far under President Trump, after rising more than $3,000 under Joe Biden. And many are crediting that to the president's deportation efforts to remove illegal aliens from our communities and therefore from housing that should be used for American citizens. At the grocery store, the price of eggs, dairy, cheese, fresh fruit, apples, oranges, potatoes, tomatoes, and butter have fallen since President Trump took office, and he is continuing to fight for even lower prices at the grocery store for the American consumer. At the gas pump, fuel prices are down by almost 10% over the past year. The average national price for a gallon of regular gas is now less than $3 and is approaching $2.70 in some states, and much lower than that in many states across the country as well. We've seen in several states gas is under $2 a gallon. And at the pharmacy, prescription drug prices are down over the past year, with even more price relief ahead for American patients, thanks to President Trump's most favored nation drug pricing deals and the great health care plan, which he is calling on Congress to pass as soon as possible. What President Trump wants Americans to understand is that this is only the start and the best is yet to come. The historic success that we have seen since he took office is just the beginning of enormous growth and opportunity that we are about to witness. And I know the president looks forward to hitting the road and being with the great people of Georgia tomorrow to talk about just this. So with that, today, I know there's a lot of news. I will open it up to take your questions, and we're going to start, as always, with our new media seat, the great Michael Graham from Inside Sources. Thank you for being here, Michael.
Thank you for having us, and thanks from our 200 newspaper partners around the country. So you mentioned gas. We didn't mention natural gas. And back where you live, your friends and family are paying among the highest prices for natural gas to heat their home and for electricity generation, the #1 source of power across New England. The cheap gas is in Pennsylvania. The 2 highest places to buy gas in the country, New York City and Boston. The problem is the blue states will not allow the gas to travel to produce electricity or to reach customers. When President Trump first came back in office, there was some talk, him and Governor Hochul in New York possibly reaching a deal. When will consumers in the Northeast feel relief from President Trump's energy policies, and what can he do about state objections to expansion of infrastructure? Then I have a quick follow-up.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the president has promised all Americans across the country, and in particular in the Northeast, where we do face much higher costs of electricity and of energy, unfortunately, because of the Democrat policies in the area. From the federal government's perspective, the president and the National Energy Dominance Council, Secretaries Wright and Burgum, are doing all we can when it comes to federal permitting. The drill, baby, drill agenda is obviously underway. The president has made a huge push for more fossil fuels in this country. You look at what he did last week with respect to coal. Coal truly keeps the lights on in this country. We learned that in the recent winter storms. However, there's only so much that can be done at the federal level. That's why the president has called on blue state governors to participate in this energy dominance agenda, including governors in New England and the Northeast, by contacting Governor Hochul directly to get this Constitution pipeline underway. This is not only going to bring down the cost of energy in the Northeast, it's also going to support job growth and energy affordability and more opportunity for workers in the Northeast. And I just have a quick statistic here on energy that I found fascinating, and it's obviously true because I'm saying it up here. Red states with Republican legislatures currently enjoy lower average retail electricity prices than blue states with Democrat legislatures. And that's exactly why the president is calling on all blue state governors across New England and the Northeast to get on board. Let's bring prices down for all Americans, whether they live in a red or a blue state.
So right down the street from your alma mater, San Antonio College, you talk about building an ICE facility that's causing a lot of political agita in New Hampshire, and for the Republican governor, Kelly Ayotte. Seems to be some miscommunications argued on both sides. Even Republican supporters of Trump who live in the town say, we're not sure we want this. What's your message to the folks in New Hampshire about this proposed ICE facility?
The message is that illegal immigration, while the border is secure, is still a problem across our entire homeland. And the previous administration allowed nearly 20 million illegal aliens from countries all over the world into our country. And the President and Secretary Noem have done a phenomenal job at deporting. Nearly 3 million illegals have left the country either through deportation or self-deportation over the past year. But obviously, there are a lot more illegal alien criminals left in our homeland. That includes in New England. There are many within our communities in New Hampshire, in Maine, and definitely in Massachusetts and in the Boston suburbs that need to be arrested, detained, and deported back to their home countries. And so the President and Secretary Noem, and I know ICE, are engaged with local governors across the whole country, including in New Hampshire, to open more detention facilities. This is an unfortunate consequence of the previous administration's border invasion that the President has thankfully put a stop to, but of course we still need to grapple with the illegal alien criminals who are here, and that requires more detention space. Thank you, Michael. Garrett.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for like military secrets here, but can you share?
Know I would be so unwise.
Unless you want to give them. Can you share a little bit about the President's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The President had a very successful operation as Commander-in-Chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The President has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people. Of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the President takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interests of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people, and that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
And on the flip side of that, he's got the State of the Union speech next week. If he is going to take military action, does the administration believe it's important to sort of convince the American people, sell the American people? Will we hear something about that in the State of the Union to make the case for why something like that might be necessary to risk American lives?
Look, again, I'm not going to engage in a hypothetical. Good try, Garrett, but you can't catch me there. I will say, with respect to the State of the Union, you'll be hearing more about what is to come from the President's speech very soon at the appropriate time. It is going to be a very good and powerful speech, so everyone should tune in. Ed.
Karoline, thank you. I got two questions for
Sure.
you. About Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the administration's decided to appeal a judge's ruling that in essence was trying to put the slavery displays back, arguing that the federal government believed it had the power to dissemble and disassemble historical truths when it has some domain over historical facts. The judge said it does not. The administration said that you were planning to put up updated interpretive materials and provide a fuller account of the history of slavery at Independence Hall. What more was the administration, or is the administration, planning to add?
I'm not familiar with this specific instance, Ed, to be honest with you, but I will check in with the appropriate people who are overseeing this, and we'll get you a more firm answer.
One other question. Then, yesterday, in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right? No. I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans through record tax cuts, through the Trump accounts that all Americans can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically Black colleges and universities across the country. Again, the president is protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million Black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits benefits and for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans, regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing. Jennifer, go ahead.
You mentioned the $5 billion in pledges for the Board of Peace. Will we be able to get a breakdown of which countries are providing each of those pledges?
Yes.
And which countries are providing troops?
Sure. We're happy to provide that breakdown, and I'm also happy to provide the list of countries that will be attending tomorrow. I know it's more than 20 countries. I know there's a lot of interest in that. I'll spare myself reading you the list of 20 countries from the podium, but we will provide it, and the president will be opening the meeting tomorrow with remarks, and will sort of formally be chairing the meeting at the beginning before he departs for Georgia tomorrow.
And then on the sewage spill, the sewage pipe that broke on the Potomac, can you give us an update on the federal government's response? And officials have told CBS that some of that aging infrastructure is a concern, that this particular pipe wasn't even of the most urgent concern. Do you know if the government is looking into which other pipes could be at risk of collapsing?
Well, the next step in this process is for any of the three local jurisdictions involved, whether that's the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland and Governor Moore, or the District of Columbia, to step forward and to ask the federal government for help and to ask for the Stafford Act to be implemented here so that the federal government can go and take control of this local infrastructure that has been abandoned and neglected by Governor Moore in Maryland for far too long. In fact, it's no secret that Maryland's water and infrastructure have been in dire need of repair. Their infrastructure has received a nearly failing grade in the 2025 report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers. This is the same grade they've received 5 years earlier. There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in. And for all of the environmentalists in the room and across the District of Columbia, let's all hope and pray that this governor does the right thing and ask President Trump to get involved, because it will be an ecological and environmental disaster if the federal government does not step in to help. But of course, we need the state and local jurisdictions to make that formal request. That's part of the legal process to move forward. Peter.
So you said that any of the three Democrats just need to ask. A few minutes ago, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore asked. He said, if the president wants me to ask nicely, our response is this: please, Mr. President, do your job.
To which I say, I'll ask the president and we will provide you with the next steps. But in all seriousness, the federal government has been preparing plans. The White House has been in contact with FEMA, with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, we've been standing by. This is a problem we want to fix, not just for the federal government, but for everyone who lives in the District of Columbia, including all of you. So you're welcome.
To your point about that, there are a lot of events coming up for America 250. The president wants people from all over to come to the nation's capital. Is he worried that by the summer, the Potomac River will still smell like poop?
He is worried about that, which is why the federal government wants to fix it, and we hope that the local authorities will cooperate with us in doing so. Steve.
What will the $5 billion be used for in Board of Peace, and will that be sort of a down payment for much more money?
You'll be hearing more about that tomorrow at the meeting. If you recall, at the first meeting when we were in Davos, Jared Kushner did provide a very detailed PowerPoint presentation for the vision of Gaza, the reconstruction and the humanitarian efforts, of course, providing local security on the ground. That will be part of the discussion tomorrow, is how can we maintain security? First, you must achieve security to get to prosperity, which is sort of the second part of this plan. So you'll be hearing more about that tomorrow, but I would just point out $5 billion worth of investment. We're talking about reconstructing Gaza. I remember when those words came from the president's lips in the East Room many months ago, and all of you in the press were bewildered at how the president could have such an ambitious goal of rebuilding Gaza, which is obviously a place that has been just turmoiled by violence and chaos for many, many years. But we are well underway in doing that, and it's a historic accomplishment for this president.
Secondly, is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little little further. I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks, and so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Caroline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the President of the United States from up.
And then just one more on the shutdown. We're now in this partial shutdown over DHS funding. Has the president personally spoken to the Democratic leaders in Congress? Can we expect to see them at the White House to try to make a deal on this?
Not to my knowledge. He hasn't had any direct conversation or correspondence with Democrat lawmakers recently. It doesn't mean he's not willing to. I'm just not aware of any conversations that have taken place. I do know the White House and the president's representatives have been in direct conversations with both Democrats and Republicans, but of course, Democrats are the reason that the Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down. They have chosen to act against the American people for political reasons, and now we have FEMA workers, the men and women of the United States Coast Guard, men and women of TSA who keep our airports moving, who will be working without paychecks for no good reason other than the Democrats wanting to pick a fight with Donald Trump. And the president thinks that is irresponsible and despicable. He wants the government to be open. We've been engaged in good faith negotiations with the Democrats. Last night they sent over a counter proposal that frankly was very unserious, and we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has talked about a forthcoming executive order on voter ID. Is there more details you can provide for that? And can you talk about any steps that you're taking to overcome court challenges that you've kind of faced in this area before on voting?
Well, as the president said in that Truth Social post, he's discussing and exploring legal options for a potential executive order with respect to voter ID, but this is something he's made very clear he wants Congress to get done. The Save America Act is a common sense piece of legislation that has now passed the House of Representatives to ensure that voter ID is a requirement in the United States of America. This is a common sense policy that nearly 90% of the country agrees with. You need an ID to go and purchase alcohol. You need an ID to go to the library and check out a book. And so the president thinks you should have an ID to vote in our nation's elections. And I know the vast majority of Americans agree with him on that. And he wants Congress to move quickly to get it done.
Sure. On Cuba, you know, it's increasingly being described as a humanitarian crisis. What is a successful outcome for the U.S. that the U.S. wants to see in Cuba? Is there anything less than regime change that would be considered success?
I think, as Secretary Rubio has articulated and the president himself, we obviously want to see flourishing and prosperous democracies all over the world, especially in our own hemisphere. I'm not dictating any actions the United States may take to get there, but of course that's in the United States' best interest to have Cuba be a truly free and prosperous democracy. Unfortunately, right now, that is not the case. They are a regime that is falling. Their country is collapsing, and that's why we believe it's in their best interest to make very dramatic changes very soon, and we'll see what they decide to do. Sure.
Much. Following up on Gaza, this $5 billion, who exactly would be in charge of managing this money? Would that be the president himself making the final decisions on how these funds are spent?
It will be the Board of Peace, which the president is, of course, the chairman of, but all of the member parties, I believe, will have votes on the funding. And then, of course, there is that technocratic layer underneath the official Board of Peace with the member countries that will be making decisions as well. So if you just go back and look at the first event that we had where we sort of unveiled the structure of the Board of Peace, that structure remains in place, and they'll be overseeing the funds that will be announced tomorrow for their reconstruction and humanitarian efforts. Sure.
Another question on that Board of Peace announcement. You mentioned there will be the announcement of who comprises that International Stability Force. How soon will that force be deployed? And have all of the regional partners, all of the regional countries signed off on the makeup of that force?
I don't have a timeline for you today, but again, I'm sure you'll hear more about this tomorrow. So you'll join us at the event. Deanna.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions.
Sure.
First, the president has talked a lot about housing affordability.
And several countries that are facing housing shortages, including Canada, for example, have imposed a ban on non-citizens, like foreigners, from buying their houses. Do you know if that's a strategy that the president would be willing to deploy?
Well, first of all, the president is obviously committed to deporting illegal aliens from our country and those who are not lawfully present in the United States, which he has done at a record pace, which has led to the falling of rents, as I pointed out in my opening remarks. Secondly, the president has recently announced that he is fighting for a ban on institutional investors and Wall Street billionaire corporations from buying up single-family homes that should be lived in his opinion, by American families. We know this is going to have a remarkable impact on the housing market and on prices and supply and demand for the American consumer and the American family. And then thirdly, the president is also expediting permitting as fast as we possibly can to build more homes, to increase supply, to obviously bring down the cost of home ownership and purchasing homes for the American people. And then also, as I mentioned as well, we do see mortgage rates falling. So all of this is combining to make housing more affordable in this country. There's still a lot more to do. The president is still digging his way out of the mess that was created by Joe Biden's administration in jacking up mortgage rates and jacking up housing costs. But we do see very positive trends in this direction. And the president wants the United States to be a nation of owners, not renters. He wants families to live in homes, not institutions and big corporations. Michael.
Caroline, secondly on Ukraine,
Sure.
Yesterday Zelensky said in an interview that he says that it's not fair that the president is saying that Ukraine has to make concessions. He's saying this publicly, and not Russia. Has the president seen these comments? And when the president says that Ukraine has to make concessions, is he referring to giving up Donbass?
I think the president would respond to that by saying he does not think it's fair that thousands of Ukrainians are losing their lives, and Russians too, in this deadly war. And that's why the president and his team have committed a tremendous amount of time and energy in bringing this war that is very far away from the United States of America, but nevertheless, this is a president of peace. And so he's committed a tremendous amount of time and energy to bringing this war to an end. Just yesterday, there was another round of trilateral talks between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. There was meaningful progress made in both parties. Both sides agreed to update their respective leaders and to continue to work towards a peace deal together. So there will be another round of talks in the future, but I think the president views this entire situation as very unfair, not just for Russians and Ukrainians who have lost their lives, but also for the American people and the American taxpayer who were footing the bill for this war effort before President Trump put a stop to it. And I would just remind everyone around the world that the United States is still selling weapons to NATO that are then being sent to Ukraine in their defense of their freedom in their borders. Michael.
Russia is reportedly joining Iran for joint naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman this week. Has the president issued any kind of warning to Russia or even China not to involve itself if the U.S. decides to strike Iran?
Not to my knowledge, no, or not that I would dictate from this podium. I wouldn't reveal the president's private conversations with world leaders. With respect to that, again, when it comes to Iran, the president has a decision to make, and he will do that, and I'm not going to broadcast what that decision may be ahead of him.
President Barack Obama, Caroline, was recently asked if aliens are real. He says they're real, but he hasn't seen them. The president's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, told Miranda Devine of the New York Post that the president has a prepared speech on this issue that he prepares to deliver at the right time. Is that true? And does the Trump administration believe aliens are real?
Well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speech writing team. And that would be of great interest to me personally, and I'm sure all of you in this room, and apparently former President Obama, too. So we'll keep you posted on that. Tyler.
The White House has touted an unprecedented amount of cooperation with counties in Minneapolis after the negotiations with Tom Homan. Are those written or verbal deals with the sheriff? How many have agreed to cooperate on immigration enforcement who previously refused to do so?
Yeah, the last time I spoke with Mr. Homan, which was just a few days ago, he assured us that nearly every single county in the state of Minnesota has agreed to notify ICE when they are releasing criminal illegal aliens from their jails. This is an unprecedented level of cooperation that we have not seen. It has led to not only cooperation to detain illegal aliens in Minnesota, which just this past week I have looked at the list, they've detained some very heinous people who none of you would want living in your communities, but has also led to a much more calm situation on the ground. We've also seen, and you've seen this with your own eyes play out, the local police and the state police have now cooperated in the arrests of left-wing agitators and criminals who are unlawfully obstructing immigration enforcement in their efforts. So this is a huge win, and again, the president sent Mr. Homan to Minnesota to do a job, and he has done it well, and I think the situation on the ground proves that.
Are those like written agreements that they've been signed by various officials in the state?
These are agreements that have been made by state and local officials in the federal government, and we are seeing that cooperation play out every single day. These counties are notifying ICE when they are releasing criminal illegals from their jail, and we do know that they are arresting left-wing agitators who are unlawfully impeding law enforcement. There's video to show that. Show it yourself. You can view it with your own eyes. John.
Thank you, Caroline. You mentioned two things: DHS closed and the SAVE Act IDs. Both of these could get solved in 15 minutes if Senate Leader John Thune simply got rid of this phony 60-vote cloture rule and got 51 votes, and that would be the end of it, because everyone in this room knows if the Democrats take over, they'll get rid of that rule in 90 minutes. They already tried it one time, and the two Democratic senators that stopped it are no longer there, Manchin and Sinema. President Trump is backing a lot of these senators for re-election, and yet they will not get rid of the 60-vote cloture rule, which is holding everything up. What is the president's position on John Thune in the Senate finally getting rid of this so this legislation can get moved?
Well, the president has a good relationship with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. They keep in very close contact, and they work together all of the time. I hear your passion in your voice, and I know it's shared by many Americans across the country, including the president himself. He wants to see the SAVE Act voted, and he's expressed that both publicly to all of you, the American people, but also privately in his conversations with Senate Majority Leader Thune and many other members of Congress as well. Yes, Rav, go ahead. Good to see you.
So J.B. Pritzker just recently signed the bill. The law went into effect in January, and it's supposedly going to allocate about $2.5 billion to illegals to go to college and financial aid in the state of Illinois. What is the White House's reaction to this? Illinois is already, by 2027, they're supposed to have a $3 billion deficit. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, we'll have to take a look at that. I would say the president certainly thinks that Governor Pritzker is not doing a very good job of managing his state, as evidenced by not only the waste, fraud, and abuse, but also the crime in the city of Chicago that unfortunately Governor Pritzker has refused to pick up the phone and call the White House and ask for help on, which is something his residents want him to do, but he refuses to do for political reasons. As for the specific money, we'll take a look and get you an answer. You're welcome. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions. One is about the president's trip to Georgia tomorrow. If you can provide some additional information about that, why Northwest Georgia was chosen for this particular trip, for instance.
Sure. Well, Georgia is obviously a very important state to the president and to the Republican Party, and the president loves the people of Georgia. He'll be touring, like I said, a steel facility, and then he'll also be stopping by another local business, and he will be giving remarks on affordability, on the economy, on all of the great economic news that I just shared with you earlier. He'll be meeting and greeting with everyday Americans, and that's what the president loves to do, to get out across the country, and he's spoken about his intention to go across the country a lot more, and obviously tomorrow's trip is evidence of that.
Secondly, last week, as you know, big event that took place in the Roosevelt Room, the president announcing that the EPA has repealed these federal limits on emissions for cars, trucks, and power plants. And in the president's presentation, he mentioned that American families will save $2,500 for a new car or truck. Where is the promise coming from automakers that they're going to pass along their savings to those families all across the country?
It's a great question, John. That was an economic analysis that was provided to the president, and I'd be happy to provide that to you so you can take a look yourself. But I'm glad you brought up the president's announcement last week, because this is one of the largest deregulatory actions ever taken in the United States of America. And overall, it's going to save our country $1.3 trillion in regulatory burdens that have really done nothing for our country, nothing for our environment, nothing for our economy. In fact, this announcement received widespread and bipartisan praise. I think I recall seeing the editorial board of the Washington Post, of all places, even commending the president and Administrator Zeldin for this historic action last week. So there's no doubt it is going to save the American consumer money, and I'd be happy to provide that specific economic analysis to you. Sure, in the middle, go ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Governor Moore in Maryland signed a bill that is ending the law enforcement cooperation with ICE. And by doing that, a lot of local sheriffs are not happy, and in fact, they met today in Annapolis to come up with legal action. What is the message of the White House to those sheriffs and to the residents of Maryland?
Well, first of all, it's another despicable action by Governor Wes Moore. Why would you prevent your state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal law enforcement? If you just ask them, to your point, if you ask a sheriff across the country if they want to have that level of cooperation and coordination with the federal government, of course they do. It makes their jobs easier. It keeps them out of hostile and dangerous environments. It allows them to detain illegal alien criminals who have committed heinous crimes in our country with the most safe circumstances possible. So the president, of course, continues to always stand on the side of law enforcement, and this is another just horrible and frankly political action taken by Governor Wes Moore, and unfortunately the people of his state are going to reap the consequences of it. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. President Trump just said on Truth Social that it would be a big mistake for the UK to hand over control of Chagos Islands to Mauritius. But the State Department earlier this week has said that the U.S. does support that handover. So does this post now suggest that the U.S. does not, or that President Trump had changed his mind on this?
The post should be taken as the policy of the Trump administration. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. When you see it on Truth Social, you know it's directly from President Trump. That's the beauty of this president and his transparency and relaying this administration's policies to all of you and to the rest of the world. Carrie, go ahead.
There's been a series of walkouts from public school students that have been sort of provoked by a number of public school administrators. What are your thoughts on this? What's the administration's thoughts on this? Will they be taking any actions on these walkouts against ICE?
Look, I think obviously the president and the administration support the First Amendment rights of all American citizens, and if they're peacefully protesting, then that's their constitutional obligation and right and responsibility to do so. Of course, the administration also wants to see American school children in school learning and educating, and I think it does speak to the left-wing bias that is unfortunately very present in our nation's public school system, and it's something that Secretary McMahon has been working very hard to root out of our public school system by ensuring that local governance and local control takes place over our nation's public schools, and that parents and educators closest to students have a greater say over curriculum and academia in our country. Take a couple more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The Vatican announced earlier today that they would not be joining the Board of Peace initiatives over concerns that it could potentially compete with the United Nations over handling crisis conflicts. What's the White House's response to that?
Yeah, look, we saw that. I think it's deeply unfortunate. I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join. Because again, the Board of Peace is overseeing the reconstruction of a territory that has been plagued with violence, with bloodshed, with poverty for far too long. And this president has a very bold and ambitious plan and vision to rebuild and reconstruct Gaza, which is well underway because of the Board of Peace. This is a legitimate organization where there are tens of member countries from around the world, and we think that's an unfortunate decision. In the back, sure.
For me?
I'll go to both of you, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, and then Jake, you can go. You're welcome.
Caroline, can you tell me, is there an update regarding the tariff rebate checks that the White House has promised?
I don't have an update for you on timeline, but I know that it's something that the president and his economic team continue to very seriously discuss.
Thank you, Caroline. I've got two questions. First, does the president see some sort of religious or prophetic component to the unfolding developments in the Middle East?
I haven't spoken to him about that particular perspective, to be honest with you, but of course the president wants peace for all people of all faiths all around the world, and that's part of his push to create peace in the Middle East, which he has done successfully.
And my second question is, as this popularity rises around the world, and especially in regions where it's invested so much effort in promoting peace and ending wars, do you think we might be watching the emergence of a global MAGA movement? Is this something that the president has discussed at all?
Well, I don't know, Jake, but I sure hope so. Take a couple more. Go ahead. Sure.
I wanted to ask you about Iran. As the U.S. military builds up around Iran, is President Trump coordinating war plans with Israel so that if he does decide to strike, that Israel will be a part of those strikes?
Look, I don't have any specifics on the president's recent conversations with Israel. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu was just here at the White House last week or the week before. But again, with respect to Iran, there was some progress made yesterday. There are still a lot of details to discuss, and we'll continue to see how this plays out. The United States government, of course, is always in close communication and correspondence with the state of Israel, and that starts right at the top with the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu themselves. One more. Go ahead.
Last week we saw the underlying affidavit for the search warrant that was executed in Fulton County, and there was not any mention in that document about foreign election interference in the 2020 election. I'm wondering if DNI Gabbard has uncovered that in Georgia or in Puerto Rico, where we know her team was sent as well.
I don't have any updates for you on that today. I would defer you to the director's office herself.
Sure. Two questions. One on the president's schedule today. It says he has signing time. What is he signing today? Are we expecting executive orders or actions? That's the first question. And then second, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that a U.S. arms sale package for Taiwan is in limbo. Can you just confirm this reporting / offer any additional comment? And how concerned is the administration that if an arms deal with Taiwan went through, that this could disrupt the China-U.S. Trade truce?
Sure. Well, I haven't read the full Wall Street Journal report. I will just say with respect to an arms sale to Taiwan, I don't have any announcements or updates on that for you today. And to your first question about what the president will be signing, he will be signing an executive order, which you will all be hearing about later this afternoon, and you will see him in 1 hour at the Black History Month reception. We'll see you there. Thank you.
And various questions on the economy to national security to aliens as a topic. And that's been in the news both inside the United States and outside of the country. Be sure to stick with us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network for additional coverage at the bottom of the hour. And thank you to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN for RSBN 10% off right now. It's ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, emergency medical kits, and much, much more, including Tamiflu. And those emergency medical kits you can take on the road with you. So smart to have, because we know that the recent winter storms stopped travel, stopped some shipments as well. So it's always smart to get ahead on this for storage or, again, before your spring break plans, because we're still in the middle of flu and cold season. Choose freedom, choose the right pharmacy. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off now. Code RSBN10. Scan the QR code there for all of those opportunities, and donate to your go-to live desk, your rally network. As you heard Karoline mention, President Trump will be in Rome, Georgia tomorrow. We'll be on the ground talking to the people about election integrity, the midterms, and everything that's on their minds. So support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, rsbnetwork.com/donate. or text RSBN to 801-801. There's also an address to send a check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama 36830. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama 36830. Thank you for supporting us, and you can additionally with the new Rumble wallet, wallet.rumble.com. Again, nothing can shut that wallet down, including Rumble itself. So feel free to tip your great content creators, the new media, including us, RSBN, right there as well. So again, 20 minutes from now, a whole brand new stream as the White House press secretary, the superstar Karoline Leavitt, mentioning President Trump to be with Black business owners, HBCUs, and celebrating Black History Month. We know that his friend, the late Jesse Jackson, passing away yesterday. They work together on so many different issues, in private equity to Wall Street, and also real estate and building opportunities for people across this country back in the 80s and through the 2020s in both private business and public partnerships. And President Trump to highlight that today as we highlighted some of those achievements in the second and first terms of the administration. So we'll bid you adieu on this stream for the moment, but stick with us on the other side, the next stream, as we'll be covering that at the bottom of the hour for a scheduled 3 o'clock event at the White House. For all of my colleagues here on the right side of history, be good on this Ash Wednesday, and we'll see you again on the next stream moments from now.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.